Good morning, boys and girls. It is me again, here to talk about hard disks, or hard drives, or whatever you want to call them. These things are the primary storage medium in most computers anymore, although more and more they're being replaced by solid-state disks, and maybe in another day we'll take a look at one of those as well. Most disk drives today run anywhere between a few thousand RPMs to 5, maybe 7,000 or even 9,000 something for high performance ones. And if you're in the server or enterprise world, 15,000 RPMs. This decreases latency and helps with throughput and so forth and so on. Gives you a little bit more performance. Anyways, there's a whole bunch of different standards that determine how fast they can communicate. There's the old-fashioned parallel ATA, there is modern serial ATA, there's old-school SCSI, and modern-day serially attached SCSI. There's also USB and FireWire disks and so forth and so on. Most of the time they're just simply adapted from serial ATA or parallel ATA or serial attached SCSI interfaces. Anyways, I've already taken most of the screws off, so let's go ahead and finish pulling these screws out, and we'll take a look on the inside. This is going to be a pretty quick video. They're not that complex, or at least not as complex as they used to be. Once upon a time, hard drive manufacturers used to actually state how much buffer RAM they shoehorned into these things, and they still do occasionally. Oh my, look at that glass platter. Ooh, a fingerprint. There, yeah. Anyways, that disk is now officially ruined. If you can see on the side there, there are multiple platters down in there, and those platters are what we store our information on. Nice and shiny. Maybe one of these days we'll do a nice project where we kind of hack these to do something. I don't know. But that's the internal guts of a basic hard drive. You have this arm here that swings in and out. Oh man, I've just scratched that disk all up. It'll never work again. Anyways, this arm moves around and to different positions using a stepper or servo motor depending on the quality of the disk, and yeah, uses quantum effects these days, but you know, back in the day it was just magnetize, demagnetize, and now they do all sorts of weird magical things I am not even going to try to explain because I just don't get them anymore either. Too complex. You have to be a PhD to understand how the actual storage happens anymore. When these things are spinning, they actually spin so fast that these read and write heads float about 1/1000th of an inch above the surface of the disk, and it just has to do with aerodynamics. Some of the more interesting things about these disks is the very first ones came out in the 60s and were the size of refrigerators and stored a whopping 3 megabytes. Today we see disks storing as much as, what, 6 terabytes on a single disk? I think I've seen them. Yeah, when I first started playing with computers way back in the 80s, I think my first hard disk was 40 megabytes. Yeah, that's massive. Kind of bizarre, they actually had floppy disks that could store much more data than that, but that was actually much later than those hard drives. Anyways, I'm getting very off topic. Ooh, you can see that nice reflection up there off that pretty glass surface. It's actually aluminized, or not aluminized, it's metallized glass, and then they deposit an oxide layer on it, metal oxide layer, and those metal oxide particles are what they magnetize and demagnetize in order to give you your ones and zeros and so forth and so on, to give you all of your groovy stuff stored on there. There were a whole lot of companies back in the day, I think 200 or 300, that used to build hard drives. Now there's only really 3 major manufacturers. I remember some of my old discs, high performance server class discs, they actually had RAM buffers on the back that had chips on them that were big stacks of RAM. I mean, big stacks of RAM. I think a couple of them had as much as 128 megs to buffer to increase throughput, and a couple of those high-speed, high-performance disks could actually saturate the parallel ATA bus. The SCSI ones were faster, and you could get drives with multi-gigabytes worth of RAM, although they had very special interfaces and form factors and stuff like that. It's all groovy technology. Maybe we'll do a video later where we hack one of these things into doing something completely different. But yeah, I think that's about it for today. Quick little video on the hard drive, a little bit of history, and a little bit of technology. But if anybody is really interested in how these things work, check out a little bit of information about the error correction. Read Solomon error correction. A disk actually uses about 10% of its total storage capacity for error correction. Pretty interesting. Anyways, y'all have a wonderful day.